Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm Roy. We are the show that brings you a wide variety of guests that talk about a lot of different subjects, mostly dealing with the entrepreneur, solopreneur, small business, even some managers of some large companies. We want to try to give you actionable items that, can help you, give you some things to think about you may not have thought about, but also connect you with professionals that can help you move to that next level and solve any problems that you may have. So today, I've been looking forward to this call for a couple weeks now because it's so important, and I'll be the first one to say that I'm going to have to listen and take notes as we go through this today. But Vanessa Zamy she's a business expert, a keynote speaker, and best-selling author dedicated to helping full-time employees transition to entrepreneurship by building their business while employed. Her consulting company, Your Vision's Catalyst, coaches and advises 9-to-5ers on how to build a profit-producing, purpose-driven business without it being overwhelming. It's not hustling that's bad, it's how you hustle that they fix. With a focus on efficiency and effectiveness, Vanessa works with you as a new entrepreneur on taking care of your life while also taking care of your business. That's an important point. Her motto is keep it simple, then keep it moving. Vanessa's background includes management science, an engineering degree from Stanford University, and strategic leadership roles at Fortune 500 companies. Vanessa, welcome to the show. One point I did want to add is when we talked earlier, you had just something I noted that you said that through connecting with hundreds of ambitious, purpose-led solopreneurs in your community, one thing is definitely clear, that mental health issues and entrepreneurship is still rampant even today. So it's time to cut out the unnecessary, unserving, and mentally detrimental busy work in solopreneurship. So first off, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking time out of your day to be with us. And let's connect. I think it's
thank you for having
an
me.
Interesting subject. Yeah, there's so much to unpack here. So let's just jump into, what are you seeing in your community currently?
Yeah, so essentially, in terms of when I talk about mental health as well, there are people think of different definitions. So just to get us all on the same page here, essentially by mental health, referring to that anxious feeling, right? Stress, anxiety, worry, panic, all that stuff, right? That is common, essentially, unfortunately, still today in entrepreneurship, right? And it's definitely common in the new entrepreneurship space. But even perhaps when you're listening to this podcast, maybe you're also like a full-time employee somewhere else, right? But unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's given all the pressures, especially in this social media digital world, there's all these pressures where, you're a new entrepreneur, you're like, yeah, like day one success. Yeah, right. Because you see somebody who's like 6 figures in 6 days, or, or you see all the, see someone with their jet or their yacht or whatever it is that they're showing you in a photo. Right. And so then there's also that comparison point, right? In terms of, and then it's also, part of it comes from level of expectations and then matching that and sort of the imbalance between reality, right? And the level of expectations that you have are based off of what you're seeing other people do, etc. But at the end of the day, it's maybe they did get those 6 figures in 6 days. Maybe they didn't, right? But what they don't tell you is that it was after 6 years of doing a couple of businesses. This was like their 5th business that they've tried. This is after, they use their friends mailing list that had 100,000, like they don't tell you all that other stuff behind it. Right. And so you.
Uh-oh. Well, we kind of had a freeze up there. Hopefully Vanessa
They've already quit their job. They quit their job before before the business even made money. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And another thing they don't tell you is that was somebody else's yacht that they were standing in front of in that picture that they posted on Instagram too.
That too, yeah.
We talk a lot about that, and there's so much that you said that needs unpacking. I don't even know where to jump in, but we get back to that purpose-driven, something that we're passionate about. But then we also, the social media has been awesome for businesses because we can get out there to a wide range of people and get in front of stuff. But I think it also, professionally and personally, I think it can give us unrealistic expectations that people never post the train wrecks that they're having, or when things go bad, or when they can't pay their light bill. It's always posting all the great stuff. And so we got to be careful not to try to compare ourselves to everybody else out there. And then the other thing that you said too is that overnight successes tend to have happened over a 5 to 10 year period, and we just think that they've just busted on the scene because we've just discovered them, or they're getting a lot of publicity, but there's so much in behind that. So again, I'll be the first one to throw myself under the bus about all of this, that I always have a lot to do, a lot of ideas, a lot more to do today than I could possibly cram into 3 or 4 days. And, you do get anxious, but I try to get out and take a walk, and then always reevaluate, make a list of to do, and then try to prioritize what is the actual most important, even though they all are very important. So anyway, a lot of stuff, but I'm going to let you kind of jump back in and take off there where you feel we need to.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of stuff. So feel free to, get me back to where you think I should go whenever. But essentially, I'll touch on the point that you just recently made in terms of how you're getting anxious, but you take that walk, right? So, but it's like sort of having a lot to do. You have a lot on your to-do list, more than you can do for the day, right? So I'm gonna address that point first, and then go into the point that you mentioned about how you're taking that walk. So in terms of the, first point about, having that extra, you have that long list, right? So it's all the stuff that needs to get done, right? And, if you're building a business, maybe you also got a family, maybe you have a day job as well too. There are a bunch of different things to do, and there are only 24 hours in a day, right? And here's the thing, when it comes down to, you getting things done, it's focus, right? It's focus. And you mentioned a key word as well too, prioritization. Right, priorities, right, and understanding what those priorities are, but even prioritizing your goals overall, right? And I always tell my clients is essentially I have like a 3-part system to help them do this, right? But first part is like, what are your non-negotiables, right? So what do you need to do to take care of yourself and to feel like you've taken care of yourself, right? In a day or a week, whatever. It's like get your hair done every month, or it's dinner with the kids every night at 6 p.m., whatever it may be. And then the second part of that is, what are the goals that you want to get done in 3 months? Right. And I'm speaking to the new entrepreneur crowd, right? But it's very easy for us to think, oh, I want to get that empire in like 3 years. I want to do this in 5 years. By the end of this year, I want to get like 100K, right? And let's say you're starting out at like 5K, or you're starting out with like 0, right? And it's a lot of like setting that expectations with yourself in terms of, okay, yes, you're going to get to the 1 year, but in terms of the next 3 months, right? What is it that you want to get done within the next 3 months, right? And I found it, especially when I was starting out, right? It was very easy for me to, I want to get this in like a year, this in 2 years, right? All these dreams, all these goals. But then unfortunately, what ended up happening was that each day I would I would do something, and then I would say, oh my gosh, I'm so far away. Like, oh, I'm the worst. Oh, I can't believe it. OMG, right? Then the next day I'll do something and be like, oh my gosh, like, so you just sort of comparing yourself to that 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, etc. in this marathon that you just started running, right? And it just didn't serve me well, right? And it just led to, being sad sometimes, being disappointed in myself. It's very easy too, because as an entrepreneur, chances are you're an ambitious person. Chances are you are an ambitious person, which means that chances are that you are, you have all these high expectations for yourself and all these, things that you wish you shoulda, you coulda, etc., right? That you want to do. And so it's very easy that list that you want to do is just all the stuff that you wish that you could do, right? And it's all going to happen. It's all going to happen, but it takes being patient, right? It takes prioritizing. It takes focusing on, okay, next 3 months, what do I want to get done? Next 3 months, right? Not next 3 years, not next 33 years, next 3 months, what will I get done? right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so feel free to add on. Yeah.
Yeah, the other part of that, I think, is being kind to ourselves because,
Mm-hmm.
like I may have 10 things on my list today and I'll get 7 of them done. And I can spend a couple minutes beating myself up over the 3 that I didn't get done. But that's always going to happen, I think, in a busy life, especially, entrepreneur, solopreneur. There's so many things, so many parts of the business, so many ideas that if we prioritize, we have to be thankful at the end of the day that, and I got the top 7 done, which, that's awesome. Not worry about the 3 we didn't get done. They'll roll over and we can pick them up tomorrow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Giving yourself grace, right? Giving yourself
Yes.
grace and forgiveness for what it is that you did get done. And I always think of it like, so I have an optimistic realism. And it's a term that I coined. I don't think anyone else uses it. Term I coined in 2014. Yeah. Essentially, I remember this moment when this happened, but essentially it was, my friend was calling me optimistic. And I was like, I'm not optimistic. I was thinking about like a girl in pigtails, like skipping down the street. So I was like, I'm not that, no. Right. And the thing is, so then I decided to coin this new term, like optimistic realism. And essentially what it means is, I see the gray clouds, but I also acknowledge that there's sun shining. I see the gray clouds, but also I choose to focus on the sun, right? And the thing is, when it comes down to your list of things, you may have had 10 things that you want to get done today, right? But even if you had 7, even if you got done 7, that's still good, right? And it's very easy though, as an new entrepreneur or whatever stage you're in, it's to say, OMG, like I only got 7 things done. I have 3 more things to do. Oh, I didn't finish everything. Oh, I'm the worst. Like I can't believe I didn't finish the list. Instead of acknowledging that you got those 7 things done, right? And part of it could be that maybe you thought it was only going to take you, I don't know, 2 hours to edit this episode, and it turns out, it took you 3 hours. So you just couldn't do the other stuff, but that's okay. You still got the episode edited, right? And so that's what it comes down to. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's the other thing. And then, I think we talked a little bit about that our relationships with our families, with our friends outside of our business. We spend a lot of time close to our business doing stuff. But what I will say is that we can't, if you have 3 left over at the end of the day, we can't sacrifice our other relationships to try to punch those through. If we are scheduling our day out, because typically most entrepreneurs I know, they put in a lot of hours anyway. So you've got to definitely have a time that you can cut things off and really nurture and pay attention to these other relationships in your life.
Yeah, and you talk about the situation where it's like, let's say it's 7 p.m. and you still got 3 more things left to do in your list, but then you told your wife it was date night, right? Or you told your husband it's date night, right? And then some people will say, sorry spouse, I cannot go on a date night with you. I just got to get these 3 other things done. But it's one of those things where you said 7 p.m., right? It's going to be a date night. So what are you prioritizing, right? What are you prioritizing? What do you want to focus on? Right. And the thing is, the relationships are important, right? People who are supporting you are important, and you don't want to, but maybe they're not. Maybe you listen to this podcast and you're just like, actually, I don't care for real. Like, and I'm like, okay, fine. Right. But assuming that your kids or your family are important to you, then essentially it's like, hey, 7 p.m. you say you were going to do this, show up, right? Show up, be consistent. Or next time, don't say you're going to do that 7 p.m. Right. Next time, do it at 9 p.m. Next time, say it's going to be a different day. Right. And if that's what it takes. But essentially today, right now, it's 7 p.m. So, get that going.
Yeah. And, working from home, I get the tap on the shoulder, like, you're done now. So you can just get up and quit. So that makes it easier. But yeah, I think the second part of showing up is to be present, because I am guilty of this, being somewhere else or at a function, and even at Christmas dinner or whatever, and thinking, I just thought that, this thing or that thing, or giving it some thought. And that's a hard part to let go of that for, whatever this period of time is, to really be present and really be focusing on that other person and, what's happening.
Yeah, and he was like, this is amazing. You brought that up. This is a topic that I also bring up with my clients. It's great. So essentially, it's the fact that there's a lot of stuff around where you're being busy. You're just like, I'm busy. OMG, like I have so much to do. I can't do this. Right? So that's what you tell everybody. But then one day, you make the time. Yeah, you make the time for the birthday party or the brunch or whatever it may be, and then you show up there. right? And then at the end of the day, you're like, oh yeah, I went to that brunch, check. Relationships, check, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day though, were you really at that brunch? Right? You want to be not only there, but you also want to be aware, is what I say, right? You don't just want to be there, you want to be aware, right? You don't want to be there and and be thinking about 20 million other things, because then you're not being present, right? You're not really showing up, right? You're physically there, but you're not mentally there, right? And so you're not aware of what's happening, or your people essentially after you left, they all talked about you. They were like, was he okay? Was Roy okay? Like, what was going on with Roy? You sure? Was he okay? Like, should we be concerned?
Believe me, I have had that happen, where mom calls the partner and says, okay, what's up? He was awful quiet or whatever. But yeah, it's difficult. And, I think it's hard for me because I actually love what I do. I'm one of the lucky few that, I've always been fortunate enough to really enjoy and dig into my job. So it's not a struggle, or it's not I don't dread it. So that makes it even more difficult, is when you really have a passion for what you do.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it makes it difficult, but it also makes it rewarding, right? And at the end of the day, it's just going back to that, what is it like? Okay, yes, you love this, like the podcast, you love the job that you're doing, right? But I'm sure you also love other things, right? And so when I talked about that first part of taking care of yourself, where it's like, what are your non-negotiables? It's getting down to what is it that also feeds into your life, right? Like, yes, you want to take care of business, but what do you need to take care of yourself so that you can show up in all areas? Because, like, as you know, right, great business, you feel good about your business. You will also feel good about your health and your wealth and your family, all that stuff. But the opposite is also true. You feel good about your health, your wealth, etc., all the other stuff. You also feel good about your business, right? And so they do connect in that sense as well too.
Yeah, because a lot of times people get into businesses or start, being an entrepreneur for different reasons. Sometimes they want more money, more freedom, but I think we have to always kind of liken it to the dog and the tail. We have to be careful that we are the dog wagging the tail, which is the business, and not end up letting the business, wag the dog. Basically, is that we have to set limits, expectations, because truly the relationships that we have outside of our work should be the most important: our family, our spouses, our kids, our friends. And we have to pay attention to those, because in the end, what's the use of being successful if you're alone, in bad health, and all of that? We want to be able to be successful, to share our time and our resources with those that we love around us.
Yeah, it's a holistic journey, right? It's a very much so a holistic journey in terms of, ensuring that you are covering those different areas, right? And the thing is, like, there may be, like, let's say you're a new entrepreneur, you're just like, oh, Vanessa, I got all this other stuff to do. Oh my gosh, right? Okay, maybe you do, but then set those expectations with other people, right? Say, hey, friends, by the way, I'm starting a business. I don't think I'm going to be able to go to brunch for the next couple of months, BTW. And then, if they're your friends, they'll understand that, right? Like, if they're your real friends, they will understand. Otherwise, what you don't want to do is say you're going to show up and don't show up. What you don't want to do is, like, say you're going to show up, you show up and then you're not present, right? You're not aware, right? And so it's a matter of that communication, setting those expectations, not only with yourself and those limits and boundaries that you mentioned, that not only with yourself, but also other people around you, right? And being comfortable and okay with that. And I think it's very much so, what I always tell, my clients, what I always say is, you need to be selfish, right? You do need to be selfish. There is a level of being selfish in terms of, you're going to take care of this business, right? And at the end of the day, are you actually being selfish though? Because, like you mentioned, right, you might be doing the business because you want to leave a generational wealth for your kids, right? Maybe you want to have more freedom. Maybe you want to retire your spouse, right? And is that really is that a selfish thing? Doesn't sound like a selfish thing, right? But essentially, it starts with you getting that business going and getting that business running, right?
And I think we've over the years, that selfishness has taken on kind of a meaning, I think, beyond itself. Is that it's the same, because it starts with taking care of ourselves. And so sometimes we have to protect ourselves, our time. We have to say no. And that doesn't make us selfish. And, as long as we're not hurting other people, we have to be healthy before we can help our business or we can help other people. So definitely, that has to be at the top of the list, of our self-care.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are like mothers and wives, and they're also doing their business, and also other stuff. And that's also definitely very difficult, at least for them like to grasp. But once they do, it's like amazing. They just show up better, right? And things that like, your kids, your spouse, right? Like you mentioned your mom, right? People can see when there's something that's a little bit off. There's a tad bit off.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And you may be trying to put up a front, like, oh yeah, I'm good, right? But things at the end of the day, if they're people who care about you, they'll see something's a little off, right? And if it's off for a lot longer than it needs to be, they may ask some questions. And so the thing is like, how do you ensure that you are taking care of yourself so that you are showing up right the way that you should, the way that you want to, not only that, but the way that you want to for the people around you. So
So we've talked a lot about setting those expectations up front, which is very important, but it's also, I think, as equally important to reevaluate as we go through time. And I don't know, if you can suggest a time frame. I can feel myself getting bogged down and, feeling a little bit of that out of control. And that's when try to be self-aware enough to say, okay, need to step back. Let's look at the to-do list, where we're going, kind of reevaluate and reprioritize basically. And so what can you suggest for that?
So it seems like kind of a little bit of what you're alluding to is burnout a little bit in terms of, when, entrepreneurs are doing all the stuff, you're kind of like on a wheel. And at some point you're just like exhausted and you're down and out for like 2 months, and then you come back, you're back on the wheel, and then you're down and out, and the thing is that I'm all about, and things like stuff that we talked about, I'm talking about another tool as well too, but even the stuff that we talked about during the past couple of minutes in terms of that focus, prioritization, all that stuff, and ways for you to take care of yourself, right? It feeds into you not having that burnout happen, right? But let's say you are in a space where you are in the burnout, and what I end up doing, the strategy that I do for myself, but also that I've now brought to my group and community last week, and everyone like loved it, and I was like, okay, great, awesome. But essentially, it's the green, red, and yellow light system that I implement for myself. And so essentially, it's because it goes back to that whole concept of you're comparing every day to like your 3-year goal that you have, right? And the thing is that doesn't serve you at all. Because essentially what ends up happening is that you end up feeling like you're behind every single hour. You just feel like you're behind. So then you try to like catch up to this like 3-year thing in like a day. And it just ends up being like, you're just doing too much, right? You're doing too much. You're burning yourself out at the end of the day, right? And so, but with the green, red, yellow light system that I created for myself, and essentially it was my way of saying, okay, all right, Vanessa, yes, you have this goal of this 3-year, 5-year, et cetera, this 1-year goal, right? And essentially it happened, looking at the end of the year, and I was like, okay, yes, you have this goal, and that's like great and amazing and cool. But essentially, what is it that is that focus for the next month? And so what happens with the green, red, and yellow light system, and I started implementing this like sometime like middle of last year or so. And essentially the green light was essentially, okay, what worked well? What worked well for the business? And I'm looking at it time frame, month to month. It is month to month. Last month, what worked well for the business? Right? That's what we're going to keep on going for the next month. And then a red light is what didn't work well, right? What did we learn from that? And then we end it and we stop it, right? That's red light. And then yellow light is where sort of it helps you to pace yourself and prevent that burnout, right? So yellow light is what is the one new thing that you're going to do differently next month, right? And this is essentially to help all those ideas. You have all those amazing ideas as a new entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur in general. You have all these amazing ideas. You're like, yeah, I can do this for my clients. I can do a retreat. I can do a center. I can do this asset. I can do a podcast. I can do all this stuff. Yeah, woo, right? And then you're trying to do all the things, right? Because you're seeing your business. You're trying to make your business happen in 5 years in like a day, right? And the thing is, at the end of the day, it's not like you got more time. Like you didn't get more than 20. Your day didn't become all of a sudden 48 hours, right? So at the end of the day, you're working with the same amount of time, money, and energy, right? However, you do need to experiment. You do need to try new things in your business, right? So that it can continue to grow and flourish. But it's like one thing at a time, right? So each month, what worked well, what didn't work well, and then what's the one new thing that you're going to do differently, right, in your business. And the way that worked, for example, for my business in November, for example, I was doing this in October, I was using this like contractor for some strategy for free marketing on Facebook. That was a new thing that was a yellow light thing I tried in October. That did not work out, right? So in November, it was like, what's the red light? That thing, right? That's the red light.
Right.
But now we need
Right.
a new yellow light, right? And then we started essentially, I was like, okay, let me get a Facebook ads contractor, right? So that
Yeah.
then we had started working on that in November. We released the ad in December. Beautiful,
Yeah.
right? And it's a continued green light, for example, right? And but the thing is, or even just like connecting with my team in terms of, you know, my sales team and how they operate as well too, right? But it's the green,
Right.
red, yellow light system to help you pace yourself, right? And also be aware of the current present moment of your business.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of, I'm a little bit on the analytical side, so it kind of plays into not tracking things. I mean, there are intuitive feelings that we have, but let's say we're doing something for 30 days and maybe the last 5 days it hasn't gone good, so we're really down on that. That's why I tell people, you know, keep a journal, keep a log, because what we want to do is look at that over, you know, a month, a week, a month, however long, and see what are our returns from that, and is it something that we should continue? You know, should we put a red light on it or not? But don't just, you know, don't wait till that time where you're kind of bogged down and not really feeling it, and then just, you know, trash some stuff that may have really been going good for you. They might have just skipped the
Yes.
beat over the last few days.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
definitely like a thing that, because what ends up happening is that you end up, you go, oh, I tried this master class, that one thing, that well, I tried that one strategy, didn't work that one time for like 1 hour, right? And it's like you tried it for
Right.
one time, 1 hour during like this 1 week. Like that's not enough
Right. Right.
data to assess,
Yeah.
right? That's why I use like the
Yeah.
30-day. Yes, love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's like you said, that adding that new thing, and then being mindful enough to watch it and let's see, is that going to work? And then, you know, again, we get back to there's 24 hours in a day, so then we can prioritize, you know, those things that are really working in life. And it doesn't always have to be moving us toward revenue or profit. I mean, it could be the interaction with our relationships or our loved ones too. We need to keep, you know, how does that, maybe it's better to schedule a lunch where you can go see people at lunch instead of a dinner where you get hung up in the day, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like maybe you tried out, you're like, okay, 7 p.m. every night, I'm gonna have a date night. Okay, cool. And then maybe you realize it didn't work out. So
Right.
and then it's like,
Yeah.
well, maybe the weekends are better, right? But it's like that becomes a yellow light, right? For like, what is the new thing you're gonna try out based on what you learned from the failed experience, so to speak.
Right.
Right? But maybe it did work well. So then you just keep on going with that dinner.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah.
Yeah, and I like your motto, keep it simple and keep it moving, because you know, one thing too, sometimes we can sabotage ourselves by way overcomplicating things. So I think that's interesting to, is that something that you've observed or noticed with new entrepreneurs as well?
Yeah. I mean, and it goes into, well, sometimes it leads to the analysis paralysis, right? That we all know about, in terms of people
Right.
just not
Yeah.
starting their business because they're just like, oh,
Right.
X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Oh my God, but what about this? What about that? What about this? And I'm just like, what about that? Like you'll figure it out in 5 months, right now, today, right?
Right.
And so overcomplicated things is a big issue there in that
Right.
space. And then also just in general, like, let's say you want to do a new strategy, right? What I end up finding with my clients is that, they'll want to, let's say they want to do a funnel, a new marketing sales funnel. And it's like, yeah, okay, you need to create this landing page. And they're like, yeah, but like, what about the picture and the color of the picture? And like, just
Right.
put a picture. Like, it's not really not that complicated. Put a picture, see how it works. You change the picture, right? If the
Right.
picture doesn't
Right.
work, you change the picture, right? And the thing is, and unfortunately, that overcomplication is what makes people stress themselves out, right?
Yep.
It just leads to that stress and anxiety that you're putting on
Yeah.
yourself. And part of it is also part of the perfection. Part of it is like, wanting to be perfect, wanting things to just look crystal clear and, just be nip and tight, right, on day one. and
Right. Yeah.
and where does that stem from? It's full circle. It stems from maybe you're looking at the people on the feed and all that stuff, all the news feeds and all that stuff, and you're saying to yourself,
Right.
oh, look at them, so perfect, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, what you're seeing is version 10.0, right? You're seeing version 6-year mark, right?
Yeah.
What you're not seeing is version 0-year mark, right? Version 1.0. And so, but everyone had a 1.0 before they got to 10.0, but you don't realize that, you don't acknowledge that. And so you're trying to be perfect. You're trying to overcomplicate stuff. You're just trying, and it's like, no, just put it out there, right? Just put it out there.
Yeah, and I think that gets back to planning. Unfortunately, again, I'll speak for myself, is that impatience is like, hey, I thought of that landing page, now I want it up this afternoon. And it just sometimes it doesn't work that way. If you have a vision, maybe. But what I found for me, web pages, writing especially, I used to get disappointed because I'm like, oh, I'm going to sit down and knock out a 1,200 word blog today, in an hour or two. And it just doesn't work. And so setting the realistic expectations where we don't overwhelm ourselves, but also like, uh, you know, fix that blog page, fix the landing page up, do it. You don't have to put it live, but just get it fixed and look at it for a day or two. And then, it's like after a while, things either become clear, either, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted, or here are some changes that need to be made. And, everything is dynamic anyway. You throw it up, it's up for a week or two, and it's like, well, maybe that, maybe you see another page that you find something you like and want to change. So we're always growing and changing. It's never going to be perfect the first time.
Yeah, but people essentially like expecting it to be, right? Even if you're doing a new product or whatever, right? And I mean, go to the example of where you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this webpage. I need to have it happen this afternoon. But here's the thing. You now thought of this idea in the morning to do this webpage in the afternoon, but you probably had a list of other stuff that you wanted to do that day.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so it comes that mental maneuvering, right? It's like, okay, yes, you can get that webpage done today, but just realize that you may not get that episode edited, or you may not get whatever it is else that you wanted to do, right? Or if you do, you'll be, something will have to go. The perfection will have to go. Something will have to go, right? And you got to keep it simple, right? If you want to get all that done today, you got to keep it all simple, right? Otherwise, you run the risk of spending 10 hours on a landing page, and then you look at the list at the end of the day, you're like, I didn't get anything done. Oh my gosh. Right. So, yeah.
And because that's another, it's a good quality, but I think it's like with all qualities, if you push it to the extreme, that it can actually work against you. But the, kind of wanting to be in control of everything is that sometimes we have to relax that and say, you know what, I can find a vendor that I can transmit my ideas to. I can be carrying on with the core of my business, let them do the development and get back to me, and then I can evaluate it and we can tweak it. So, but that is a challenge. Do you run into that quite a bit with your clients?
In terms of like finding the right people and tweaking stuff, so to speak?
Well, want to be the control freak.
Oh, yes.
Handle everything himself.
Yeah. That's the thing. The thing is that maybe it's so I haven't seen it with my clients, but I do see it with people who aren't yet my clients, where they are, before they come to me, they're like, oh yeah, I'm do all myself. Like I can do it all myself, right? And it's like sort of like people with something to prove, right? It's generally that's what ends up happening. That you just feel like you have something to prove to somebody that you can just do it all yourself, right? Not realizing that the people you're seeing on your newsfeed, they have a team of like 10 other people, right? Like they have other brains, they have other hands doing stuff for them, right? At the end of the day. But you think that you got to prove something to somebody. And it's just like, no, you don't, right? And for me, I mean, I got rid of that habit back in like high school when I was just like, oh my gosh, if I get other people to do stuff, that leaves me more opportunity to do stuff. It's like, great, yay. So yeah.
We can't be afraid to reach out. There's a lot of good services out there. We get recommendations. We can find somebody who can get us 80 or 90% of the way there, and then we can add that finishing touches on it to make it the way we want it to. Well, Vanessa, I appreciate you so much taking time out of your day to come talk with us. So one thing is, do you have a tool or a habit or something that you use in your personal or professional life every day that just adds a lot of value?
So I would say that's something I started doing like middle 2020, maybe early 2020, but essentially, it's like early spring 2020. Wow, it's been so long, but it feels like it was yesterday. But essentially I was listening to something of Tony Robbins, and he mentioned like some 5 questions, and so I've actually started doing that, and like essentially started doing that way back early 2020, where I started doing like these 5 questions that I do in the morning. And I don't write it down in a journal, but some people do. I literally will just like, once I wake up and I'm like aware that I'm awake, I just run through these 5 questions in my mind. And then I get out of bed and live my life, right? So the questions are, what are you most excited about for today? What are you most grateful for? What are you most proud of? And then essentially, how will you achieve a business breakthrough today? Right. So I was like, how will I achieve a business breakthrough today? And then the fifth question is related to your goal, right? And so it's, how will today get me closer to, and then you answer your goal, right? So maybe it's retiring your spouse, maybe it's retiring yourself, maybe it's getting, investment property in California, maybe it's, whatever it may be. But how will today get you closer to that one goal, right? And so that's the 5 questions that I run through in the morning, and that's what I've been doing. That's the tool, so to speak, right? That's the tool. And in terms of, if you're looking for more like, how do I just get stuff done in my life and stay calm and relaxed, because that's essentially just a skill, that a zone of genius that people have told me I had for the past 15 years. And I didn't realize that until I started your business Catalyst, and I was like, oh snap, this is what people have been asking me for. I also had the fortunate opportunity to write a book about it. But essentially what I do is, right now, essentially the stage that I'm at, is that what I do is I just will map out stuff. Like if I have something new that I want to do, some new project or some new goal, what I do is I end up just writing it out. I just end up literally take out a piece of paper, and I just have 7 columns on a piece of paper, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I do 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And we'll just block out stuff. I was like, okay, if I do this on that day and this on that day, okay, great, it all works. Okay, cool, I'm good. I never look at the paper ever again. But essentially in my mind, it just helps me to understand and be aware that, oh, I can actually get this new project thing done, so to speak. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome, because I think we have to, I think your 5 questions get you up and get you started on the right foot and moving in the direction you need to. And then also looking at our plan over a week coming up, it's, what's on our agenda, where we're going to have some time to plug some things in. And, they always say, plan your work and work your plan. So anyway, that's awesome. What I want to get you to tell me about a couple things before we ask you how people can get a hold of you. So you've got the ebook called Finish the Solopreneur's Guide to Getting Stuff Done.
Yep.
So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then you've also got your boot camp.
Yes, I do. Oh, yes, I'm happy to share. So essentially, Finish the Solopreneur's Guide to Getting Stuff Done is available on Amazon. And essentially that book stemmed from, it's at the time that we're recording this podcast, about 1 year anniversary. It was released, but essentially that book stems from, pre my starting business days, in which it was really just about, how did I get all my goals done. And so I talk about the zone of genius. Essentially, I've moved around different places, but each year, as well as one person, a different person, who will essentially say, Vanessa, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I never quite knew the answer. I didn't know what they were even asking me of, so I didn't quite know how to do it. I was like, I study, I sleep, I don't know what are you asking me for. And then essentially at some point I woke up in the morning and I was like, oh, can you hear the background noise? Are you still good? Are you good? Okay. And at some point in the morning, I woke up and decided, yes, this is the book. This is what people have been asking me for, right? And so essentially, Finish is a 6-step process that I developed that essentially goes through project management and self-management tips for you to get stuff done throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your life, as you look towards achieving your goals. That's what that's about. Okay. And then my boot camp is something I do live to connect with people and give them marketing, time management, and sales skills for their business.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll be sure and I'll be sure and put the links to both of those on the show notes as well, so you can go over there and be sure and check those resources out. I think they'd be very valuable to new entrepreneurs and those that may be bumping up against some time and productivity issues, kind of get you back on the straight and narrow. So. All right, Vanessa. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. So tell everybody what can you do for them, how they, kind of basically who's your client, what you can do for them, and how they can reach out and get a hold of you.
Yes. So I coach, consult, and advise 9-to-5ers on how to build their profit-producing, purpose-driven business, even the demanding day job. And so if you are looking to continue moving forward in your business, let's say you're struggling, you're overwhelmed, you're stressed out, you're just like, I'm doing the things, but nothing is happening, right? And if that is you, then I'm here for you. My team and I are here for you. And you can reach us in the Skyrocket Your Side Business Facebook group. It's a private Facebook group. So you're welcome to check us out. To sign up for that group, you can check out vzamy.com. That's vzamy.com. And in that group, we have boot camps, pop-up boot camps, pop-up workshops. Let's see what else I do. I go on live every day as well too, to give a different business tip related to time management, marketing, sales, goal setting, mindset, business strategy, all that jazz is in that group for you as a resource.
Okay, awesome. We all reach out, see how Vanessa can help you. That's going to be it for this episode of the Business of Business podcast. I want to thank you for listening. You can find us, of course, at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com. We're on all the major podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and also on all the social media from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, a recording of this episode will be put up on YouTube as well. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.